Hello and welcome. This is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. This channel evaluates all aspects of true crime. As you are aware, videos and live streams in this genre often discuss elements of crime that may be disturbing to some viewers. If necessary, take the precautions needed to avoid these feelings. Factual information related to cases is the key to fostering rational true crime discussions. Fortunately, you will find that here. Please hit the like button only once, share the video, and subscribe if you like my content. Thank you very much for watching. What's going on, freaks? I'm just trying to share this a little bit. Why don't you guys go out and share the video really fast? Or the show, whatever you want to call it. Hey, thanks, Bridget Price. Get it out there. Make sure to go out and share the live stream. Blocked in so many Facebook groups. That's funny. All right. Well, there you go. It's out there. Nobody's chatting. I had a Coke. You know what's really good is Coke Slurpee. Man, those are. What's better than that? I like the grape one, Gray. I don't know who this guy is over here. Can somebody check out who this gray man guy obviously isn't going to be a normal person. All right. It's better than a movie trailer. Yeah. So tonight's my last live stream for a couple days, or at least normal one. I might try to do one. I might try to do one tomorrow, actually, at some point, while driving. We'll see. Yeah. Okay, well, your name seems like it was spelled differently, but you know, people have actually called me, "Hey, Gray Man," like that. Anyways, today there was a couple more Delphi documents that are put out, and it seems like every time there's a Delphi document put out, it's always like some huge drama event. You know, it's ridiculous. And this is just another one of those idiotic claims by the defense, you know. And of course, there's people out there that don't think through things, so they go, Oh, whoa, oh my God, this is incredible. It's incredible, everybody. And it's just, it's not. You know, it's not incredible. The whole Odin thing is garbage, okay? And the reason that Baldwin and Rosie like it is because it, you know, it points to something else. Plus, they know that it was discarded because the evidence didn't show anything related to them early on. So they can claim all kinds of things, like, oh my God, look at that, they didn't keep this and they didn't keep that, and this document, and wow, and there could have been a recording, but we don't know. And you know, it just gives them all these little outs that they want. It's pretty disturbing. But hey, Zozo, what's going on? I think I remember that case that you guys were talking about. Isn't that the one where the kid was like on a swing or something in his yard? I don't know, that one just never interested me for some reason. Yeah, kind of looks like Kyron Horman, sort of. Yeah, the whole thing is garbage. The entire element by the defense, everything that the defense is doing is complete garbage. All right. I don't know. You said for me to go take a look at it, Zozo. You made a comment on Facebook. Welcome, Persis57. Yeah, and you're out there and you're not a channel member, consider joining my channel. And also, if you'd like to help support the channel, that would be great too. We try to bring in revenue every single night to help support my channel and the income for me. And also, I give away a ton of money too to various charities. And you know, we're out there making a difference no matter what on this channel. We actually have, I don't know if you guys are aware of it, we have a DNA fund that we've put about $80,000 into in the last 3 or 4 years. And we have identified through our funds, I think 5 or 6 people so far, and have like 3 or 4 in the works currently. And so, you know, when people go, I don't know, what about that Gray Hughes guy? Well, we actually get shit done over here, okay? And, you know, if you don't like getting stuff done, then go watch something else, all right? I really, go watch the absolute wackos who stare into the camera and pretend that they know what the hell they're talking about, and they don't have a clue about anything. And you're out there, yay! It's so interesting! Okay, we actually over here make a difference, all right? Yeah, we've given $23,000 to NCMEC over the years. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Boy, what a terrible thing to do, Gray. Yeah. So we make a difference here, and the only way to make a difference is if when you guys are helping support the channel, because I'm able to sort of pool it all together at the end of the month and give away quite a bit. All right, so there you go. That's my spiel. I'll probably do it again later. All right, here we go. We're going to start doing the... And I'll have to do it again later, because a lot of times, even when I say that, it just goes wah, 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 down to 0, right? So, you know, the only way to do what we're doing is on a nightly basis, we reach a goal and make things happen. If it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. All right, so the first one here is going to be the motion to dismiss for destroying exculpatory evidence. Whoa, that sounds horrible. I'm not going to put it up there. You know, I didn't used to ever have the meter up there, and we always did better. And as soon as it gets up there, when it hits the certain number, oh, forget it. You know, everybody, you know, so the thing is it used to be where people would always help support the channel all the time. And now it's just an absolute, you know, like a struggle where I'm always having to mention something. But, you know, we reach goals most of the time. You know, most of the time. But some nights it's just absolutely horrendous, you know. It's like, oh my God. even though the show's the same. Yeah, it didn't really help, because as soon as it would get to, like before, there'd be nights where maybe you'd bring in 250, 400, 300, 400, 5, even 500 sometimes. And that was great because it made up for the really bad nights. But as soon as you put a number on it, people would look up there and go, oh, there you go, forget it, and so then you're done. And so it just sort of, sometimes it works, I don't know. I might put it back up there at some point. But notice how when I just gave you the spiel a second ago, it resulted in 0. Like not one person went, oh, okay, yeah, let's get going here. All right, so anyways, here is the motion to dismiss for destroying exculpatory evidence. Comes now the accused, Richard Allen, by and through counsel Andrew Baldwin and Bradley Rosie, and pursuant to the 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendments. Hey, thank you, Persis 57. And also, thank you for joining. To the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 12 of the Indiana Constitution and Indiana Code 35. I don't really give a crap about that. Anyways, down here, it says, Richard Allen stands accused of murdering 2 victims on or about February 13, 2017. What do you mean you can't see me? I'm right there in the upper left-hand corner. Since receiving discovery on this case, the defense has unearthed significant evidence that third parties named Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall were involved in the murders. And no, you haven't received any evidence that they were involved in the murders.
I'll do Chewbacca if you want me to.
There's been 0 evidence that they've been involved in the murders. Okay, 0. The defense would incorporate into this motion the contents of a Frank's memorandum. So we all remember the Frank's memorandum. Don't forget that the completely piles of crap attorneys, Rosie and Baldwin, with the ethics of a coyote, absolutely invented this whole Odin crap, brought it out of, yes, they did look into it early on, law enforcement did. But this was given to them by YouTubers. They were even cited in the document. This is a document that was supposed to be covered under the gag order. But wow, they didn't want it to be covered by the gag order. So they uploaded it onto a server. The regular sort of server that lawyers can get to on the Indiana website there. And then they told some buddies, some podcasters, so they could quickly download the damn thing. Then they download it, these podcasters, and it makes it out there. And then the gag order is put back on the document. And but they put it out there on purpose. That's what these guys do. They are slime buckets. They are disgusting people. All right? Now, they're going to go, I don't think so. If they were brought up, if you took them to court on the crap that they've pulled, it is insane. Okay? So let's just, you have to put this in context using them. Hey, thank you so much, Dan Coyle. Thanks for forever your work. Greg, glad to see Blue is doing well. Yeah, Blue is, in about 14 minutes I have to run in there. If somebody could remember, I got to go give him his Lasix and the other drug that he takes. Yeah. So these guys are absolute dirtbags, and there is no, there isn't like a rebuttal to it. Like when you say that, you can't go, well, I think, nope, there isn't a well or a but or anything like that. They literally are, okay? So originally, they weren't supposed to have a gag order because the defense said, they thought about doing it, and then the defense said, you know what, we won't say anything. We won't say anything. And the prosecution trusted them, and then immediately they broke it. Like the next day, they go, oh, hey, and they went out and started speaking about the case and how their client's innocent and doing this and that. And so then they had to do a gag order. And as soon as they do the gag order, they put out that
memorandum in support of the Franks hearing and absolutely broke the gag order, an official gag order. Then they sent documents to a convict out there, literally sending him documents that showed like the lineup of witnesses, etc., etc., etc. And then the convict shared him on YouTube. And then not long after that, crime scene photos were released. Literal crime scene photos of Libby and Abby on the ground with some, branches that go up on their left side and then ones that go over. They were released. And then, to save face, they pretended that a guy named Westerman went in there and took photographs of images in their conference room and disseminated them. And he even did it under like a sworn oath, right? But that's because he knows that you can't prove otherwise. But it doesn't make sense, everybody, because prior to those photographs being taken, he was given the Franks memorandum, the Franks hearing, the memorandum in support of the Franks hearing. He was given that, including the reference articles like the crime scene photos, etc., etc., etc. And those are the same photos that were released. And so if anybody out there can explain why Westerman would take photographs of images he already have, let me know. He already has them. So he's the one that disseminated them to a guy named Robert Fortson, who then gave them to another guy named Mark Cohen, and that guy distributed them all around the place, all out there. And then it led to Mark Roberts ended up being dead. I mean, not Mark Roberts. What the hell's the other guy's name? Robert Fortson. He's ended up dead. All right. So Robert Fortson ended up killing himself because of the whole situation. And look at all that crap right there. I mean, just think about it. Like all this stuff going on because of the incompetence. And that's exactly right. The judge has it right. These two attorneys are incompetent, in my opinion, of course. Hey, thanks, Allie Cake and Georgina Stoliker. Oh, good for you, oh my. Yeah, good for you. All right, so you hear what I just said right there? All those different things. And now we've got this. Look at that, Amber Maiden joined in. Richard Allen stands accused of murdering 2 victims on or about February 13, 2017. Since receiving discovery on this case, the defense has unearthed significant evidence that third parties named Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall were involved in the murders. That evidence is critical to the theory of the defense. So now they're going, yes, we're going to go on that. We're going to put the case onto somebody else that's just as likely, and that's our theory, all right? The defense would incorporate into the motion the contents of a Franks memorandum that was filed. This is that one that was made public on purpose to give the public the notification of this Odin bullcrap. Hey, thank you, your gypsy. Not my gypsy, but your gypsy.
Ocean wave, ocean wave.
Chewbacca? I'll be Chewbacca if you want me to.
Yeah. And by the way, if you don't know what the Chewbacca is, our buddy Cairo, he's still out and about out there, but he was at a hotel. He was just about to walk out the door to smoke a cigarette, and this lady, a lady of the night, as it were, was sitting on the curb, and as he opens the door, she goes, and then he goes, Chewbacca? And then she said, I'll be Chewbacca if you want me to. Right? and if you're a guy out there, put a 1 if your fantasy is to be with a woman that looked a little bit like Chewbacca. Okay. So anyways, the defense would incorporate into the motion the contents of a Franks memorandum that was filed with the court on September 18th, 2023. And look at that, September 18th. Remember I was in Idaho on September, 7th? And I already knew this was coming out. And that memorandum provides the details of the evidence that supports Brad Holder's and Patrick Westfall's involvement in the murders. Well, there is no involvement in the murders. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you're talking about them as if they are involved. I actually think that Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall should sue the living crap out of these two attorneys. Anyways, because they're making everything public and they're accusing them. In discovery, the defense found a document dated February 17, 2017 that appears to be an FBI report memorializing an interview with Brad Holder. So they found, let's see, that way back, just 4 days after the murders, it appears to be the FBI had a report and it memorialized an interview of Brad Holder. Contained within the document are these words: the below is an interview summary. It's not intended to be a verbatim account and does not memorialize all statements made during, how come they have quotes? When does the quote end? They don't end it. The below is an interview summary. And then I wonder if that's where the quote's supposed to be, and it says, it's not intended to be a verbatim account and does not memorialize all statements made during the interview. Communications by the parties in the interview room were electronically recorded. The recording captures the actual words spoken. Emphasis added. Also in discovery, I'm not sure, when does he end the quote? I'm going to have to check something here. Because now we don't know what he's actually saying here. Now there's one. Is that the end of it? No. See, that just, we don't know what they're quoting here. Does it stop right here and then this is what they're adding in? You know? So we don't know where it ends. Does it end right? The below is an interview summary. That's all they're saying it said. And then they're saying, I think, it is not intended... What's going on? Yeah, I know, really. What the hell? It is not intended to be verbatim account and does not memorialize all statements made during the interview. Communications by the parties in the interview room were electronically recorded. The recording captures the actual words spoken. And I don't know who saying that part right there. Also in discovery, the defense found a document dated February 19, 2017 that appears to memorialize an interview with Patrick Westfall. The report itself does not indicate whether the interview was recorded, although the defense would expect... Okay, so maybe up here it's saying that they did record Brad Holder's, but this one does not state that it... Although the defense would expect that standard procedure would require video or audio recording of all statements. After locating this document, I mean, so this is already, see how it's already written poorly and sort of like not able to really figure out. They start off with a quote, and there's no end quote anywhere. Okay? They don't put one. So you don't know what they're quoting here. Also in discovery, the defense found a document dated February 19th that appears to memorialize Patrick Westfall. The report itself does not indicate whether the interview was recorded, although the defense would expect that standard procedures would require video or audio recording of all statements. After locating this document, the defense sought a copy of the recording detailed in the February 17, 2017 report so that the defense could listen to the exact spoken words of Brad Holder during his interview. That is vital to Allen's defense, particularly the statements that the author of the document admits were not memorialized in the document. Okay, listen. So you have a summary by the FBI, and they're not suspicious at this point, right? So they're just like, oh yeah. So they're summarizing it. If it was something really earth-shattering, they would have done something. So that's what they're doing here. It's like this is 6 years ago on a vein of the investigation that bore no fruit and had. So here's what we got to think about, you guys. If it really was Brad Holder and Westfall, and they were looking into this guy, you don't think that they would have wanted to make an arrest 5 years ago? Instead, they're waiting around. Yeah, because the right evidence didn't pop in front of their face, like the Richard Allen information. And I don't know. To me, it just doesn't make any sense that. So what you have to believe then, I guess, is that it's a conspiracy. All right? It's a conspiracy by the prosecution, and there's this huge cabal of people out there that are all behind it. They knew that Westfall and Holder were part of it, but they're Odinists too, right? So this all makes sense now. That's why they put the Odin guards in there. It's just they got Odinists everywhere. So they're protecting Westfall and protecting Holder. And then years later, they go, ooh, wait a minute. Yeah, let's pin it now on a guy named Richard Allen. Why didn't they pin it on Richard Allen way back then? I mean, hell, he came forward, for God's sakes. Wouldn't they just immediately have done that? Yeah. Also, the defense requested a copy of all audio, video of Patrick Westfall's interview that was memorialized in a February 19, 2017 report. On September 8th of 2023, so about 6.5 years later, the prosecutor communicated in a letter that there were no audio or video interviews of Brad Holder or Patrick Westfall available. Prosecutor McClellan offered no explanation as to why these didn't exist. Before the defense had an opportunity to investigate the reason why these pieces of evidence were not available, Prosecutor McClellan called for the disqualification of attorneys Rosie and Baldwin as Richard Allen's lawyers. Judge Gohl, without a great deal of hesitation, said she was leaning towards granting McClellan's request. Ultimately, Judge Gohl caused Rosie and Baldwin to be taken off the case. Oh, you know what it was, though? Is because they asked for that information. Ooh, wow, you guys nailed it, man. So they asked for the audio files, and then almost immediately they were removed from the case because they were onto something. Isn't this just the way these guys are so childish? These two attorneys are two of the biggest conspiracy nut jobs I've ever seen. They would do awesome on YouTube. Okay, they would absolutely do incredible. Ultimately, Judge Gould caused Rosie and Baldwin to be taken off. This occurred before Baldwin and Rosie learned of why crucial videotape interviews were missing. Right, but they're not related. There's no connection between the two things, but they're trying to make a connection. That they were removed before being able to hear about this. There isn't any. There'll never be, Dan. And again, from last night's show, and thanks, Dan, does anybody know of a reason why they would put Odinist guards, like they put, meaning some higher level people, put Odinist guards to watch over Richard Allen? I've always said this. Wouldn't the Odinist guards treat Richard Allen like a freaking king?
People would want to cover for Westfall and Holder. It doesn't make sense as to why they wouldn't just pin it on them.
Yeah, well, why not just, if the evidence led to Westfall and Holder, they would be arrested years ago. Okay? But it didn't work. I mean, wouldn't the Odinist guards be like fanning with palm fronds or whatever the whole term is? Richard Allen and giving him extra cake, and just treating him like a god because he is going to take the fall for what they did. Instead, they're going to treat him like garbage. That doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense at all. Hey, thanks, Danielle. All right, contained on January 31st, 2024, after being reinstated to the case, the prosecution turned over discovery to the defense, including a letter cataloging the evidence that the prosecutor was turning over to the defense. Contained on page 5, paragraph 5 of the itemization of discovery are these words that explain Brad Holder's missing videotaped interview and Patrick Westfall's missing interview. Due to a DVR program error discovered on September 20th, 2017, all recordings of the February 20th, 2017 were recorded over. There's no detectable audio found. So, man, I gotta go. Right, I gotta do the blues meds. All right. Gray grew up. What? What are you talking about? Gray grew up? When did I grow up? When I was younger? Hey, trolls, be less dumb, okay? Thanks. What's going on with this? Jesus. All right, well, thanks for reminding me. So Blue got his. He got a little piece of beef there. Hey, thanks, Mrs. Ryan. You always have to give something to Chloe, too, because she gives you this little look like, how come I didn't get something? Yeah, you guys couldn't see it, but I should have filmed. Let's see. He just got his piece of meat. All right. God, those dogs are so. They're just. Their life's so horrible, you know. They sure like to sleep a lot, though. Anyways. Isn't this just crazy, you guys? I mean, it is shitty that... So what you have to believe, though, is the fact that on September 20th, 2017, if there was a program error that wrote over the DVR, that they had quickly wanted to erase all the Odinist stuff and just waited for years to find the perfect patsy named Richard Allen. Of course, the bullet they found was at the scene at the time of the murders. So they already knew that Richard Allen was going to be their patsy, right? Like they were like, okay, okay. In 5 years, we're going to blame this all on a guy named Richard Allen. But first, we got to remove some of that DVR footage that we have, and then years later, we'll just pin it on this guy because we've already got the bullet. Huh? What are you talking about, Zozo? Is it something to do with what we're doing, or? Anyways, isn't there a transcript? I don't know if there is or not. There's no detectable audio found on this drive. Remember, Brad Holder and Patrick Westphal were interviewed during this very short window, February 14th to February 20th. So those are the same day of the murder, all the way to February 20th, just 6 days later. The videotaped interviews were deleted by the police. So, see that statement right there? Is that really accurate? Let's just say this up here is true. Is this accurate right here? No, it wasn't deleted. It says, due to DVR program error, all recordings up to February 20th were recorded over. They were just recorded over. Nobody over here is like, this one sounds like, oh, they went and like look both ways, they're sitting there going like this. And they hit the delete button. It is unknown that other interviews were deleted during the relevant time frames. The destruction of material interviews of key suspects early in the investigation demonstrates negligence, if not intentional conduct. Okay, so that means they knew that years later, a guy named Richard Allen was going to be arrested, and they were going to use Westphal and Holder as the... Oh, this is so stupid. The destruction of material interviews of key suspects early in the demonstrates negligence, if not intentional conduct on the part of the state. So what would be the intentional part? Can anybody think of an intentional reason? Unless you believe that there's an Odinist cover-up. That's what you would have to believe in. And I think that's what Baldo and Rosie believe in. Because they're stupid people. Okay? They are absolute morons, both of them. As a material part of the... I mean, it's not like great news that that information was written over. But at the same time, those guys were deemed irrelevant to the case. Okay? And you're now bringing them up again. And you're upset because now you can't pick apart words that they use to try to create an alternate story for yourself. Yeah. Not really, Danielle. It's been messy since the Odin document. That's about when it got messy. So when you say always, it's just not true. You started following it really late. Let's see. They, at the least, have the police reports of that. Yeah. Well, they have that 85-page document. Experienced defense lawyers fully understand the significance of comparing and contrasting the accuracy and credibility of one's video, audio, tape statements with that information which is presented by law enforcement officers in police reports or summaries. It is through this process that Richard Allen would have been able to challenge the veracity of the statements of Holder and Westphal. Well, you don't know if they were or not, Daniel. See, that means you believe the Odin documents. You don't have any idea what was done or what wasn't done. All right? You're listening to the Odin people. And no, it wasn't messy or anything like that. Yeah. I don't know what you're referring to, Bogey. What are you talking about? Yeah, they're Odinists. Apparently they were sort of into that because they're trying to create this whole Odin plot that's intertwined, and it all makes sense now, man. No, you mean the two guys. You mean Holder and Westfall. Experienced defense lawyers fully understand the significance of comparing and contrasting the accuracy and credibility of one's audio tape statement with that information which is presented by law enforcement officers. Yeah, and that is a reality. Like, sometimes when an officer relates what they hear and what they deem the significance, later on when you listen to it, it's like, well, it doesn't really say that, what you said it said. So, I mean, that part, it is important. It is through this process that Richard Allen would have been able to challenge the veracity of the statements of Holder and Westfall. But that's you assuming that, so no matter what, they would have found something, because that's what they do. However, the state's intentional or negligent destruction of the original recordings deprived the accused of such an opportunity. The state's actions have deprived the defense of the ability to compare Brad Holder's words from February 17, 2017, only 3 days after the victims were murdered, to the evidence that was unearthed over the next several weeks, months, and years. This would have allowed Richard Allen to determine whether Holder's story was consistent with unknown evidence at the time of Holder's first statement, and whether it is consistent or inconsistent with future testimony, be that trial testimony or deposition testimony or statements made to other persons or witnesses. Yeah, so they could go interview Holder now, but then they'd want to be able to compare the original taped interview with what he said now and say, hey, why did you change that? Why don't you look at your own client, though? Why did he change from 1:30 to 3:30? He switched it to 12 to 1:30, right outside of the range that he admitted to before. We're having one of those long lulls again, you guys. So if you're out there, we got to get to the goals, everybody. So help support the channel. Thank you very much. So in any criminal investigation, the interviews of potential witnesses must be preserved, such as the precise words of Holder and Westfall in their 2007 interviews. Because as additional information, here's what they want to do. They want to free Richard Allen just based on this information right here. What a joke. And I think the thing is the prosecution and the judge know what the real information is behind the scenes, and they're just dumbfounded at this bull crap that the defense is doing here. I don't know if there's a written... Normally somebody transcribes stuff like that, but you remember how everything was just, at the beginning, everything was so fast and furious, everybody's moving around, trying to find something, and... See, Danielle, you seem like you're somebody that actually believes in this stuff, because you're out there spouting out all the crap about Abby's, boyfriend's dad, Holder, is a Odinist. So ooh. Okay, it's all garbage, everybody. The whole Odinist thing, everybody looked at a long time ago, and it was deemed to be bull crap. Yes, there were some officers that thought it was interesting information, right? Because they're probably the conspiracy theory types. A lot of those people exist in society. They like that kind of stuff. Hey, Mama 457 Rose, thank you. And look at that. You've been here longer than 17 months, Caligal 3. I was thinking more like 30 something. Did you have to start over or what? No, they weren't really pumping the Odin thing. Let's see. Hey, thank you so much, Sarah H. from Canada. A? Wow. That's my whole Canadian accent. It's just A. There we go, everybody. I nailed it. Or is that North Dakota? Ah, shit, I don't remember. In any criminal investigation, the interviews of potential witnesses must be preserved, such as the precise words of Holder and Westfall in their 2017 interviews. Who are you talking about, Danielle? Yeah, that guy's an idiot. And he's going to do it, and he's going to go down the Odinist route because that's what he does. He keeps saying he's going to do that. And the only reason the clown is going to go down the Delphi route is because I cover it. He has no interest in that case. But he wants to do it because that's what he does, the conspiracy bullshit. Hey, thanks, Dan Coyle. What did you do before YouTube, Gray? I was like David Carradine in Kung Fu. I walked alone with a rolled up sleeping bag and no, let's see, what did I do? Before YouTube. Well, I work as a search engine optimization, and I write code using. Hey, thanks so much, Cali Gal 3, Robin, and Dan Coyle. I do I use Python and write code for search engine optimization, trying to pull information, and I'm not the one that does something with it. They just say, Gray, we need you to go out and get this, and this, and this, and I go get that.
What did you do before YouTube? Gray?
Bow, bow. Here, I'll show you one really quick. Watch this. So I wrote this just for my show here, this Python. See this little script right here? It's really short, but it for a file name in my list. So it goes and gets all the names of each file inside of a folder on my computer, and then it goes through that, and if it's a link, right? So let me just show you. So here's a folder. Let's say I need to make get all the links that these. See how these are hyperlinks? I mean, like literally, if I click on that, it opens up a page, but I want this link. So instead of opening them all up and copying that, I have this program right here. Look into that folder and then grab only the URL that these go to. So watch this. When I hit run, this is what it popped up with right there. See that? So then I can just copy that and put that in there for my sources, because that's where all those URLs went to that were in that folder. Does that make sense? That way I don't have to open up each one. I can just put them in that folder, hit the button, and boom. Right? So I'll run it again, watch. And there it is. Isn't that cool? Man, no, nobody's even commenting on this. Who cares, Iceman? Somebody remove Iceman. Okay. All right. Yeah, you guys are... It's like, why even show you anything? My God, what a waste of time. All right, okay, here's number 16 here. Without the actual audio video that would provide the exact words spoken from Brad Holder's mouth, the accused Richard Allen will never, ever be able to know exactly how many inconsistencies existed in the original statements of Brad Holder and Patrick Westphal when compared to the evidence that was later discovered or future testimony of Holder. Hey, thanks, Dan Coyle. What do you mean? Have I ever done a house tour? What do you mean? I don't understand. No, I don't know. Were you talking? I wasn't even talking to you. It's even. Well, you know, if somebody shows up to your show and says something like, I hate snakes, it has nothing to do with anything that anybody's talking about, then they're not here for any other reason than to draw attention to themselves, right? Yeah.
Have you ever done a house tour? Would be cool.
What do you mean by house tour, though, Dan? What do you mean by that? I don't know what you mean by a house tour. I've done many in the Idaho 4 case, if that's what you're talking about. Hey, look at that, it's Dana Dane. Oh, yeah, well, I have a small house, and right now it's got a bunch of crap. No, it's not really a brick background. It's just this is just like a vinyl thing that goes on the wall, you know. I can probably switch it out. I'm going to make it so I can put a green screen back there so I can do my old stuff that I used to do where I could be sitting in a bar or something like that. Anyways, let me get back to this. Hey, thanks, Bogey Green Street. So what he's saying here is that he not having the original recordings doesn't give his client, since the Odinist theory is their main, that's what they're going after, it doesn't give them the ability to check the continuity of what he said back then and something in the future, or if it even matches what the summary was. That's what they're saying. And I just, this isn't going to cause any problems at all. This is ridiculous. So somebody's supposed to be able to predict that in the future some wackadoodle attorneys are going to go for the Odinist theory again, and now it's like, oh crap, those documents are written over, they need those because they're going to go after the Odinists. I mean, I don't know, man. Jesus, ridiculous. Yeah, I like real, I mean, houses that have bricks, but I don't actually have like bricks on the wall back here, you know. This is my new office. You know, I converted the entire garage into a like an actual studio. It's cool. I mean, all right. Let me start over on 16. Without the actual audio video that would provide the exact words spoken from Brad Holder's mouth, the accused Richard Allen will never, ever be able to know exactly how many inconsistencies existed in the original statement of Brad Holder and Patrick Westphal when compared to the evidence that was later discovered or future testimony of Holder and Westphal, nor can Richard Allen challenge the credibility of Holder and Westphal in light of subsequently discovered evidence. Furthermore, what was the subsequently discovered evidence? Furthermore, Allen is deprived of the ability to confront either suspect with their words contradicting any self-serving testimony. You mean like Richard Allen when he switched from 12 to 130? They may offer throughout the investigation or prosecution. On August 30th, 2023, following depositions in which the state of Indiana and law enforcement learned that the defense believed Brad Holder to be an actor in the murders, law enforcement finally re-interviewed Holder for what is believed to be the first time since 2017. Okay. Oh, I see. So this is that subsequent information. Hey, thanks, Elaine. What's going on in there, you guys? Why does every time you talk about Delphi, crazy people show up? You ever wonder about that? Yeah, like calling somebody an Odinist, Brian. Isn't that crazy? Jeez. Wow, you got that right. All right, so this is the new information. While in 2017, according to the memorialized report, Brad Holder told law enforcement that he never met Abby Williams, who was purportedly dating his son. His story changed, however, in 2023 when he talked to law enforcement. That's what they should have said, however, but they didn't put the word however in there. His story changed in 2023 when he talked to law enforcement. In 2023, Holder told interviewer at the 3909 mark, "I barely even knew that girl. I met her once." Well, I mean, that's kind of, you know, it's sort of similar, right? Like, hey, thanks, Mama 457 Rose. Therefore, one material and highly relevant contradiction exists. So they got a contradiction. Apparently, the summary that they used mentioned that Brad Holder told law enforcement that he never met Abby Williams, who was reportedly dating his son. His story changed in 2023 when he talked to law enforcement. Holder told interviewer at 3909, "I barely even knew that girl. I met her once." Okay, I mean, you know, that is different, but it's not like, oh my God! Therefore, one material and highly relevant, to you it's highly relevant, contradiction exists. It is therefore plausible that many more contradictions would be available to the defense but for the state's intentional or negligent failure to preserve all the evidence. Such negligent and intentional conduct on the part of the police has also resulted in the absence of material evidence which could be exculpatory in nature. This circumstance in and of itself violates Richard Allen's due process rights. Let's see, the 2070 report stated Holder never actually met Abby himself. Okay, that's the phrase. Although, guess what? That's the summary. You know, so again, you know, that's not actually Holder himself, right? I mean, we don't have a transcript. He may have said something like, I don't know. I mean, I saw her once when he was walking by, but I never really met her, so like she walked through the house with my son, but I mean, who knows what the actual term is? I guess that's the point. God, it's just so mind-boggling because this has nothing to do with the case, but this is their Denny suspect, and they're trying to like throw them in there, and now they're upset that there's some interview stuff that is missing from 6 years ago, when it was deemed that those aren't even they're not relevant to the case. Do you guys think there's even a shot in hell that the judge is going to say, well, we're going to have to free this guy because, what was it? Motion to dismiss. I think they're saying dismiss charges. That's what they're doing here, right? Because there's let's look at the wording here. Look how absolutely disingenuous this is. Motion to dismiss for destroying exculpatory evidence. How do you know? You don't know if it's exculpatory or not. But you're saying it is. Like it's just there's no chance that it was. And the reason you're saying that is because you can turn anything into that because you're an attorney. You guys know how to do that. Well, how do you know it's a lie, Jamie? How do you know? The deleting of interviews of suspects 3 days after the dead. That isn't when that happened, Ulsterman. You must not be able to understand or grasp anything. Okay, it happened in September. 7 months later, it was written over on a DVR. Did you miss that part of the document, or? Yeah. Wow. What do you mean she may not dismiss? She won't be dismissing. Okay. Richard Allen will not be dismissed because of this right here. That's stupid. Because she probably has the real information. And this is irrelevant. This is just some crazy Denny suspect attempt. Okay, I get this channel. I have always followed why immediately. I don't know what you mean. I'm not deleting any comments. And quit deleting. Let's not delete any comments if they're just disagreeing in there. Okay? If they're trashing the channel, then yes, delete the comments. But if they're just disagreeing, it doesn't matter. Like, for example, it's okay that the deleting of interviews of suspects 3 days after the dead isn't important? Really? Yeah. Maybe, like, those can stay up there. He said he met her once, which is a lie. Well, how do you know that's a lie? How many times did he meet her? He probably won't live for the outcome of this case. Huh? I don't know what that means either. The nut jobs. This is just amazing, man. Right. The nut jobs salivate every time a defense motion filed or document released. Same people who believe Kylie Rodney was murdered suspect Koberger is where is it? Is being framed and so on. I guess I need to. Does that still go if I go like that? Hold on, let me move over. I gotta fix that. So it's right there. There we go. That should be enough now. There we go. I mean, I don't think he's innocent, but this is what defense attorneys do. Right. They file motions. But these two are lunatics, Robin. I guess that's what the difference is. Very irresponsible douchebags who are, it doesn't matter what you say. If you went like this, man, I can't even come up with an example. You could say something like, Brad Holder said he found, I don't know. I really, what I'm trying to say is they can take a mundane sentence and turn it into something nefarious. That's what they do. And these guys are irresponsible in the way they do that. Just remember the Odin document and the ridiculousness of the one single solitary man acting alone with dexterity, and how they just kept saying it over and over like a 2-year-old. And then the whole part about and then mentioning Abby over and over again in that same, just, these guys are garbage, okay? It doesn't mean that it's bad. I mean, it'd be great if they still had these documents, okay? They don't. Are these interviews? It's also been discovered that former Rushville police officer Todd Click reached out to the prosecutor McClellan in an attempt to bring to his attention the existence of an 85-page report. I bet you that document will be released somehow. Somehow that 85-page summarizing the investigation that revolved around Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, and other affiliates. This letter, which landed on Prosecutor McClellan's desk via certified mailing on May 1st, 2023, so that's about 7 months after 6.5 months after Richard Allen was arrested, was not discovered to the defense until more than 4 months later. On September 8th, 2023, only after the defense disclosed in depositions that they were aware of the Odinist ties to the crime scene and investigation. The failure to disclose on the part of the prosecutor, if not entirely intentional, rises to the level of an ultimately failure of disclosure of potentially exculpatory evidence. The failure to disclose sheds further suspicion on the absence of the Holder and Westfall interviews. It's totally unrelated, though. Those are from years ago. Thank you, Kit. Odinists, they're so like a Nordic religious, they have symbols, and it's like a pagan kind of, I don't know. To be honest with you, I just don't care, You should care, Gray, because Odinism's a big part of the case. Yeah, Odin's right. That's what I said. And only after the defense disclosed the deposition that they were aware of the Odinist ties of the crime, the failure to disclose on the part of the prosecutor is not entirely, if not entirely intentional. So they didn't disclose. Let me see. So it says up here. So there was a letter that. So when was this letter, which landed on Prosecutor McClellan's desk on May 1st, was not discovered to the defense until more than 4 months later on September 8th, and only after the defense disclosed in deposition. That sounds like he's McClellan's being really above board there, doesn't it? I don't understand. The way that they twist things is disgusting. Look at how this worked. So this guy named, Todd Click sends him an 85-page document about Odinism. He's like, okay, whatever. This is about Richard Allen. So he just has it sitting there, right? So listen to how this plays out, you guys. And he got that on May 1st, 2023. So he got it, and why? It's like, okay, it's about Odinism, but yeah, it's Richard Allen. And then on September 8th, 2023, after the defense disclosed in depositions that they were aware of Odinist ties to the crime scene and investigation, that's when this failure. So he gave it to them then. It's like, oh, you guys are into the Odinism thing? Well, shit, let me show. I got this 85-page document for you. Doesn't that sound like he was working with them and being open? Like it says. So let's just look at it again. Todd Click reached out to Prosecutor McClellan in an attempt to bring to his attention the existence of an 85-page report summarizing the investigation that revolved around Brad Holder, Patrick Westphal, and other affiliates. This letter, which landed on McClellan's desk, or an email on May 1st, 2023, was not discovered to the defense until more than 4 months later on September 8, 2023, and only after the defense disclosed in depositions that they were aware of the Odinist ties to the crime scene. Yeah. So as soon as he heard, oh, you guys are going down the Odin route? Well, shit, let me quickly, I'll give you this 85-page document that somebody sent me. But the way they word it, this failure to disclose on the part of the prosecutor, if not entirely intentional. What do you mean intentional? He just had it. It had nothing to do with, it's an Odin document from somebody else. And then you're saying his failure to disclose it. He disclosed it to you the second you came up with your cockamamie theory about the Odinism shit. He goes, oh, well, hell, you probably want this 85-page document. He was helpful to you. Other than that, nobody would ever even have cared about the Odin document because it has nothing to do with the case in a sane world. Hey, Ulsterman, you're not paying attention. I can tell by what you're writing. If you can't pay attention, then go watch somebody else, all right? It's embarrassing. All right, let's see. Furthermore, as explained in the Frank memo, it appears as if law enforcement and possibly the prosecutor himself attempted to conceal the identity of a Purdue professor who contradicts the sworn words Trooper Jerry Holman and Sherry Tony Liggett concerning whether the crime scene contained signs of the involvement of an Odinist cult. God, what a dummy. Yeah, but 4 months later, hardly right away, you jackass, you bastard. Did you hear what I said a second ago? Listen, okay? If you come back with another rebuttal that doesn't make sense, Ulsterman, we're going to have to say goodnight, all right? Because I'm going to do it again, all right? Try to pay attention this time. I know it's tough for you. I know it's difficult. It's very difficult. Right up here, it said that Todd Click reached out to the prosecutor McClellan in an attempt, this is just another investigator, to bring to his attention the existence of an 85-page report summarizing the investigation that revolved around Brad Holder, Patrick Westphal, and other affiliates. An 85-page document. This letter, which landed on Prosecutor McClellan's desk on May 1st, was not given to the defense until 4 months later, on September 8, 2023, and only after the defense disclosed its in deposition that they were aware of Odinist ties. So he got this document, it's like it's unrelated to anything. It's not even really, it's not discovery. It's just like this officer goes, hey, you got to check this thing out. This is something we wrote a long time ago. So they give it to him. And then as soon as McClellan heard from the defense that, wow, they're going to go down the Odinist route, he goes, hey, here you go. Here's an 85-page document we got on it. That's just absolutely helpful. Was he required, when he got the 85-page document from some random Todd Click guy, to just, hey, and just throw it over there to the defense? Yeah, I don't think so. So the way they word it, though, is, oh, it was intentionally trying to hide it. It's just disgusting. God damn. Oh, did they? Well, remove them then. Yeah. Yeah, I trust the mods here, so if you made disparaging remarks, remove them. It's typical defense strategy to create reasonable doubt. Now they're tying that into the whole Purdue professor thing, right? Where, furthermore, as explained in the Franks memo, it appears as if law enforcement and possibly the prosecutor himself attempted to conceal the identity of a Purdue professor who contradicts the sworn words of Trooper Jerry Holman and Sheriff Tony Liggett. In more recent discovery, defense also located a prepared search warrant application to AT&T for data contained on Brad Holder's and Patrick Westfall's mobile devices. Each application states that Holder Westfall is a known member of a religious sect. Let's see. Application to AT&T for data contained on Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall's mobile devices. Okay, so this is a search warrant. And in the search warrant it said, each applicant states that Holder Westfall, a known member of a religious sect, and elements of the murder have potential religious significance. The information being requested is relevant to an ongoing criminal investigation. So this is like probably really early on, and it led to nothing. There's no evidence that the warrant was ever served. Also, the defense has not located any discovery regarding any data contained on Holder and Westfall's 2017 phones or any other electronic devices. It defies logic that law enforcement would conduct forensic examinations of so many other phones in its investigation, yet ignore the phones of Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall, who were viewed as suspects within 3 days of the murders and interviewed by law enforcement. No, they weren't looked at as suspects. They were people of interest. Okay, see again, they're just trying to, hoodwink the people reading this. All right, you guys, we're having one of those long lulls again. So if you're out there and you can help support the Grey Hughes Investigates YouTube channel, and that would be absolutely awesome, and thank you very much. All right, let's see. It defies logic that law enforcement would... this stuff here kind of makes sense, right? Like, a known member of a religious sect and element of the murder have potentially religious significance. The information being requested is relevant to the ongoing criminal investigation. That was in their warrant. There's no evidence that the warrant was ever served. So maybe the judge didn't accept it, or what? I don't know. Also, the defense has not located any discovery regarding any data contained on Holder's and Westfall's 2017 phones or any other electronic devices. It defies logic that law enforcement would conduct forensic examinations of so many other phones in its investigation, yet ignore the phones of Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall, who were viewed as suspects within 3 days of the murders, people of interest, and interviewed by law enforcement, who then prepared search warrants for those phones. These suspicious facts further call into question the circumstances surrounding the destruction of key videotape statements of Holder and Westfall, if it ever existed, and support Richard Allen's motion to dismiss all charges filed. It says dismiss all charges filed by the state of Indiana. Defendant requests a hearing at which time he can present evidence and make arguments as to why these charges should be dismissed. The defense files contemporaneously herewith his memorandum in support of this motion. Richard Allen, for reasons cited herein and in the accompanying memorandum, moved to dismiss all charges against him and request a hearing on his motion. Yeah, let me just throw this out here. So let's say there's videotape of Richard Allen doing all this. There was a trail camera and it filmed. Hey, thanks, Robin and Paulette Leonard. We're about 60% of the goal, the normal night goal, so if you guys can help out, that'd be great. Let's say there was a trail camera that was filming Richard Allen doing this. These guys would still be writing these same reports here about, oh, this Odinist thing, it's an Odin. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying their hardest to get the charges dropped or the search warrant nullified with the Franks hearing and all that stuff, because they know that there's information that McClelland and the prosecutors have that there is no escaping from. Zero. So they might not even use any of this crap when it gets to trial, but they're using it now as a way to try to get out of it. I mean, some of this, yeah, it does suck. You know, like, you'd think that they would still have the recording or a transcript of it or something, right? I mean, you'd think that they would at least have a transcript. So, you know. But does that mean, let's say the judge, let's say there's the judge out there, and they found like a document where inside of Richard Allen's house he was talking about Abby and Libby and what he did in a journal that he had hidden, and that's in there, but the defense never brings that out. And then his daughter, he heard him say certain things, and he would, act inappropriately with her. I'm just throwing this out as an example. And then those kind of things, and she's the one that turned him in after all this time. And let's say the judge has all that information, and then you come up with this ridiculous argument right here on the side about, oh, you didn't record this thing because we want to use it. She's just going to go, screw this. Okay? So you're going to get out of a murder because you aren't able to have a Denny suspect that the evidence in the case would completely destroy immediately? Yeah, forget it. I am about 75 short still, of just the regular goal. If we get another 124, I'm going to donate 5 more memberships. I mean, we've only been doing the show for an hour and 23 minutes, but you never know. You never know how it goes. I wonder if these 2 guys had been arrested, would their attorneys be saying, hey, look at the short CVS. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Isn't that funny? Oh, let me get rid of this off the screen. And there's a whole nother document we got to go over, you guys. Pretty crazy, right? Hey, by the way, Daniel, when did the clown... I heard him say that like a month ago about doing Delphi. Is he saying it again now, too? Jeez, what an idiot. Oh, God. Now, they'll just love it, though, because, man, he'll pump the conspiracy. He won't for a second think Richard Allen had anything to do with it. I can actually write the videos for that guy. Thank you, Cape Breton Drone Pilot. Hey, by the way, I got one. I have one of those Mavic Mini 4s, and I bought the what do you call it? The goggles too. Hey, wow, thanks, Dan. Hope this helps. Also, that chat capability is awful as Google YouTube has it. What do you mean the cat? Thank you, Cindy Lynn. So I have these crazy goggles, you guys. So they're like FPV. You put them on, and I attach it to my Mavic Mini 4, and you have this little thing in your hand. You hold it, and if you go to the left or right, it turns, it banks, and you can connect it to your head, right? So your head movements. So when it's flying, you can actually look around like this. So it'll keep going in a direction, but you can look around with the camera. It's locked. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Hey, thanks, Cindy Leon. And Quietly Frozen, the coolest name in YouTube history. And also that chat capability is awful as Google YouTube has it. What are you referring to on that one? All right. I think it's time to like get back to more Delphi stuff though. Like we just gotta get this dialed in. And it's pretty cool. Like even if you talk to like Becky or anything, they never tell you anything. You know? Now, so they're really good about the gag order, unlike people like, and not that they're not told anything either, because there's gag orders against other people towards them. All right, well, another 1407, and I'm donating 5 memberships. All right. What do you guys think about that? Okay, so basically what we got from this was that there was a recording perhaps of Holder and maybe one of Westfall, but they were written over on a DVR. No, the gag order is not over. They can talk to people, they can't talk about the case. We were going to write about me and the crew about something we did I was supposed to do. You might not have heard of, maybe you have. I first heard of it was like used to get angry and all of that. You say what you want to spell my name right.
Hope this helps. Also, the chat capability is awful as Google/YouTube has it.
Oh, you mean the chat isn't very good on there? Okay. Just spell my name right, because all I'm ever guilty of is rocking the house. But that's not what the rumor was all about. Thank you, Cindy Leon up there. And Quietly Frozen, the coolest name in YouTube history. I like the avocado one myself. Yeah. All right. So what was your overall feeling, you guys, of this? What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna have the phone. People can call in or whatever. All right. So, and I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller so you're gonna have to be able to, like, you just zoom in on your phone by pinching outwards. All right. But you can let me know what you think about this. And what we're gonna do is move on to the next document. What do you think of that? Nothing worse though when you're going over something and somebody doesn't even pay attention to what you're saying. Like you literally tell them a minute ago that he got the document, the 85-page document that wasn't disseminated to the defense shouldn't bother a soul. Because that was given to them by some other investigator. It wasn't like something like, discovery in terms of, I don't even, it's different to me. It's not like they were investigating. He just goes, hey, look at this. And he was looking at it going, Odinism? Geez, this crap doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's Richard Allen. And then 4 months later, McClellan, reads one of their, I guess it was in a deposition, let it known that the defense was going to go down the Odin route. So he goes, oh, shit, then you guys might be interested in this 85-page document. Doesn't that sound like pretty honorable? I mean, that's incredible to me. He could have tossed that in the garbage can or something. But then he goes, no, here you go. Here's your 85-page document. I have a feeling that document's going to make it out there. Yeah, well, the Richard Allen one, apparently, I guess it could have been on body camera, but they don't, I'm sure the one when he's in jail is on tape. When they're interviewing him, interrogating him, basically. I think the daughter may have turned. Well, there's rumors out there that Richard Allen's daughter and perhaps like it's on Facebook groups, but I've seen other people say it that have a little bit more information than others. That they said that the daughter and her fiance or husband now, I guess, came forward. That's what led to the discovery of the, them going back and looking at it again. Which is pretty amazing if that's true, right? And that's just a rumor. I'm saying the rumor because I've seen it said by other people other than out there on Facebook. Okay? What's going on, Dan? They are working. Yours came through, Dan. Yeah. They did work. Oh yeah, the super stickers might work, but you already sent it in, so thank you. Maybe you couldn't see it on the screen, but we got it. Maybe your bank has a limit also, like some suspicious charges going through on YouTube or something. Okay, now we're going to do the memo. There's a memo here. Memorandum of Law Support for Dismissal. This one's probably... Well, let's see what it says in this one. Yeah, I saw Fig Solves up there. He made a comment and then it got deleted really fast. Where'd you go, man? I might try streaming tomorrow at like 7 in the morning till about, I don't know, like 8:30 or 9 or something. I'm going to see if it works in my car driving. And no, I won't be going 36 and a 25. But I might be going 72 and a 65. Is that okay? Or... Huh? Yeah, it's that Bandon Dunes golf. Oh, okay. Boom! Yeah, I might try to stream live and just, throw out the windshield like we did on those trips and everything. So it's a long drive, So I figured, hey, I could kill time and hang out with the freaks and not miss an actual day of streaming. And then Friday, I don't know. But also tomorrow I'm putting out one of my, like, the Jody Arias animations I made. I put them all in like one video because I took them down a while ago. It was crazy. One of them, check this thing out. It had 400,000 views, but it only made $1 because it wasn't even monetized. It was like, what do you call it? It was, well, it just wasn't monetized at all. It wasn't long enough. I guess you can only put ads on videos that are over a certain length, and it wasn't long enough. So now it's not going to get hardly any views, but I think people would be interested in seeing some of those cool animations and videos that I made. So that'll be tomorrow at like 10 o'clock, I think. Something like that. All right. Well, I tell you, if you get another 14, we're going to give away 5 memberships. All right. So here is the memorandum. At issue is the purposeful or negligent failure to preserve and or the destruction of material and exculpatory evidence. Well, you don't know if it's exculpatory, right? critical to the defense of Mr. Allen. It also involves the attempted concealment of the identity of a key witness, later identified as Professor Jeffrey Turcott, and and other exculpatory evidence, such as the Todd Click letter and evidence referred to by Click in his letter. Well, shit. Well, thanks, Dan Coyle and Quietly Frozen. Isn't that weird? We have a Dan Coyle and a Dan Boyle, right? Isn't that right? What are the odds of that? Or Doyle. Is it? Hold on a second. Now my brain isn't working. Did you hear Gray? He said his brain isn't working. It never is. I hate that guy. Hey. It's a conspiracy. Yeah, Abandoned Dunes is amazing.
Can you hear me? This is what I'm taking about. I tried for hours and this doesn't work.
Well, it worked. We can hear you, Dan. It's right there. It's a conspiracy, I tell you. All right, hold on. We're going to go do it. We are going to give away the 5 memberships.
New Eden.
And there we go. And thanks again to Dan Coyle and Quietly Frozen. The coolest name in YouTube history. Oh yeah, what's the what is it, Dan? You missed the whole show? Or no, the show's still going on, Don. It's still going on. Right, we're going through the next document now. And so we got Gene Fish, Lynn, Outlaw, Redbones, Lisa, Brad Lucas. Actually, that name, I think, sounds like a Delphi name. And Shelley Pink. Isn't Brad Lucas like one of the names from early on in the Delphi? Like just. And there you go. And welcome, freaks. All right, let's go. Let's start over again. At issue is the purposeful or neglect failure to preserve and or the destruction of material and exculpatory evidence. We believe exculpatory evidence critical to the defense of Mr. Allen. It also involves the attempted concealment of the identity of a key witness, later identified as Professor Jeffrey Turcott, and other exculpatory evidence, such as the Todd Click letter. You mean that he gave you after you mentioned you're going down the Odin route, referred to by Click in his letter. See, don't you think it's just intellectually dishonest for the defense right here to claim that McClellan was holding the 85-page document from him when at the mere mention that they were interested in the Odin theory, he goes, oh, here, take this. He shouldn't have had to ask, Gray. He should have just gave it. What do you mean, man? Nobody even thought anybody was going to be talking about Odinism. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just like, you know, what if early on in the Delphi case, somebody was talking about UFO abductions and aliens, and there was people looking into it, and then later, somebody another law enforcement said, well, there were some sightings. Here, check this out. I think he's a weirdo, this weirdo cop, and he sends it in on this file and says, look, there's aliens, and I think there could be the Greys, perhaps, with the big almond-shaped eyes. We're just not quite sure. But there were lights up there. And McClellan just goes, yeah, and then puts them off to the side, right? And then 6 months later, somebody goes, hey, we actually think that there could be aliens involved here. And then McClellan goes, hey, well, shit, this guy sent in a whole report on aliens. Here you go. That's what it reminds me of. That's what this is right here, okay? That level of absurdity. But Gray, they really looked into him. They know. Okay, I'll give you that. They looked into him early on, but they ruled him all out. Okay? And later probably chuckled, can you believe we used to think this was Odinism? Yeah. Indiana Code states that the court may, upon motion of defendant, dismiss and information upon certain grounds. In this case, the defendant requests the court to dismiss this information pursuant to Indiana Code. I'm not sure what do you mean, dismiss what? Which states that a motion to dismiss an information. Man, who wrote this crap? Which states that a motion to dismiss an information, what? May be granted for any other ground that is basis for dismissal as a matter of law. Such grounds would include a violation of a defendant's constitutional right. All right, hold on a second. Let me get this. Hello. Somebody actually called in. What's going on?
Yeah.
Who's this?
Hey, this is Kit.
Oh, what's going on, Kit?
Hey,
yeah. I didn't want you to sit there. I didn't want you to sit there. I didn't even look over there. And all of a sudden, I don't know how long you've been sitting there, but
I don't know, 10 minutes.
Okay, well, that's not.
No,
too bad.
not that long, honestly.
Yeah.
No, I just it's been like 2 years since I called in.
Yeah, I remember
So
that. You did a story, right?
actually-
Didn't you do? You have one of the, like a video story about yourself.
Yeah, I had a domestic violence story.
Yeah.
Because I was a victim of domestic violence 7 years ago. So, but that's kind of why I'm calling, because I actually, after I talked to you 2 years ago, I decided to seek victims' compensation from the state of California.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Did it work?
No.
Oh.
No. They approved my application. And I was applying for lost wages and relocation, mental health. So I won all that. However, they said that I couldn't prove my lost wages because they said, well, your employer didn't know that you were being beat on at home. So you can't prove that you couldn't go to work because of the domestic violence. And I just told them straight up, you have no idea how true victims live, because nobody's going to go to work and tell their employer that they're being beat on at home, because I would probably have lost my job because I worked at a hospital for 2 surgeons. And then you get called into the office and they say, oh, trouble at home. Well, we hope this won't affect your employment, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't tell people. You just don't go around telling people. That's all. So, yeah, they wouldn't award me lost wages because I could no longer work 2 weeks after I was assaulted at home. I had to quit my job, and basically I submitted like 80 pieces of paper to the state of California, and it just wasn't good enough. It just was never good enough. And it's ridiculous. So I wanted to call you and thank you for all the stuff you've done for the community, for victims, because honestly, it's people like you that make the true difference for victims. and survivors instead of these government agencies that don't do anything to help people.
And
so I just wanted to call and thank you.
Well, that was nice to say. But yeah, I mean, it was cool that you, if you guys haven't seen it, there's I think a playlist, I can't remember what it's called, but if you scroll down in the videos, they're just kind of like these black thumbnails, so they should probably stick out, but I think it just says Kit on the front or something. And you should listen to them. They're pretty crazy, the stories.
But I'm much better now. I went to, I did an intensive, I did a 4 or 5 month intensive PTSD trauma therapy, and then I saw like another trauma therapist for like 7 months, and then I moved to Montana. I moved to a small town in Montana, and I just do artwork and moving on with my life, and really glad to be alive and in this world still.
Well, send let's see send me a picture of some of your art to my email.
I will, and I did a portrait of Blue, and I'll be sending that in the mail as a thank you.
Oh, well, that's nice of you. Jeez.
Because I also wanted to thank you because you were one of the first people that listened to my story, because that's really important to survivors of domestic violence, to actually have people listen to them. So that was really important to my recovery. So you are very important to the true crime community, and I just really wanted to call and thank you for that, because it's like from the bottom of my heart, Gray.
Oh, well, it's such a nice thing to say. It makes me feel good. But anyways.
So, anyway, I just want to thank you. And my son is turning 30 this weekend, and I'm very excited about that. He's the light of my life, my son Theo.
Oh, nice. Well, tell him happy birthday.
So anyway, I'm going to let you go, get back to your show. But anyway, thank you for listening, and great show. Keep it up. Thank you.
Well, thank you for calling in. All right. Well, I hope everything works out for you. Sounds like you're doing well. So.
What?
Sounds like you're doing well.
Oh,
so
yeah, I'm good. I'm doing just fine. Yeah, I'm doing much better.
Well, congrats.
I just wanted to mention also that for me to give back to the community, I do give free artwork to survivors of domestic violence and people that are going through trauma.
Well, there you go, everybody.
I do. Yes. And I'll be doing more for the survivor community as I can. But right now, if anybody wants free artwork that is a survivor of violence of any kind, they can reach out to me free. So.
Okay. Well, why don't you send me your info, and then I'll make a community post or something. Okay. Yeah, for sure. And I've been doing that for a couple years now, and I've actually sent art to 3 survivors. Oh, that's awesome. So. Yeah, and I'll continue to do that. So anyway, I'll send you that stuff. Good night, everybody. Thank you for listening. Okay, have a good one. See ya. Okay, bye. Bye. All right. Well, that was Kit. Yeah, she had a pretty... You guys got to go listen to her story. It's one of the videos that I made. There was I think I did 3 or 4 of those. They're pretty... they're just amazing stories. I think one of them was in Oregon here, if I remember right. All right. Anyways, I'll get back to this, but that was nice to hear that. See that, you guys? We make a difference here. All right. Should I just start over, or let's see, where are we at? At issue in the purposeful or negligent failure to preserve and or destruction of material and exculpatory evidence critical to the defense of Mr. Allen, it also involves the attempted concealment of the identity of a key witness, later identified as Professor Jeffrey Turcott, and other exculpatory evidence, such as the Todd Click letter and evidence referred to by Click in his letter. Indiana Code 3534-1-4 states that this court may, upon motion of the defendant, dismiss. It must be any information upon certain grounds. Dismiss, probably an, I don't know, man. Dismiss an information. That doesn't. In this case, the defendant requests the court to dismiss this information pursuant to Indiana. Dismiss what information? I thought it was to dismiss the case, but what are you talking about? Which states that a motion to dismiss an information may be granted for any other ground that is a oh, Jesus. Hold on. Does anybody even know what they're talking about here? Of law in support of dismissal. What are you trying to dismiss here? Because it's talking about information, which states that a motion to dismiss an information? What does that mean, an information? Singularly referring to something that's plural. May be granted for any other ground that is a basis for dismissal as a matter of law. Such grounds would include violation of a defendant's constitutional right to due process. Additionally, trial courts have inherent authority to dismiss criminal charges where the prosecution of such charges would violate a defendant's constitutional rights. 3534-1-4 is merely legislative recognition of the authority. A motion to dismiss based upon a ground of specified in Indiana 3534-1-4 may be made or renewed at any time before or during trial. I mean, some of this just is like, they do this all the time. You know, like during the trial where you always have them say, "We'd like to have a directed verdict, sir." And the judge always goes, "Nah." I mean, it's very rare when a judge does do a directed verdict. That does happen sometimes, though, where the evidence shown at trial is not correct or not the way it's supposed to be and is not really indicating guilt at all. And the judge might say, yeah, we're going to have to, and just immediately finds them not guilty and it's over. I think that was sort of recently we had a case like that. I notice it's never the other way around, though, that the judge doesn't go, immediately go, they're guilty, right? I don't even think a judge should be able to do a directed verdict. Although, sometimes you got these idiot juror members, like all the people that watch The Clown, the conspiracy theory nut jobs. Those people sitting in on a jury, you're likely going to have a hung jury because their brains don't work correctly. It's weird. The Indiana Supreme Court has held that a serious breach of duty occurs when the prosecution willfully or intentionally, when unjustified by a public policy, obstructs the access of the defense to material evidence in its possession. It is likewise, what's weird about this one? Normally you see people complaining when the prosecution hides exculpatory information about Richard Allen himself. These guys are upset because their perceived hiding of information of an alien theory, the Odinism, has nothing to do with Richard Allen. But you're claiming, because that's the route you want to go down, that it's somehow you are not being able to defend your client properly with information. Man, I totally get what they're trying to say, but it's just ludicrous to me. I mean, where does it end, by the way? I mean, just any sort of document that was ever like, yeah, oh, wow, this one person turned in a UFO sighting and thought maybe that was it. Yeah, let's just throw that in the round file. And then later they go, you threw that into the round file. He could have been describing something else when he was referring to the aliens. You know, because my client, he is pretty short and he's thin and skinny. He has pretty big bug eyes and maybe he does look like an alien in terms of... Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Give me a break. Yeah, put little, make him wet, give him some ketchup. Man, he'll suck those things down. How come the defense isn't talking about this? That Richard Allen was doing just fine. He was exercising, in prison, doing well, everything was fine. The Odinist guards didn't bother him at all. And then one day, he confesses to the murders as the weight of the charges are falling on him. He confesses not 2, 3, maybe 4, 5 times to killing Abby and Libby. And then his wife, who heard him say this because he was talking to her, freaked out and went, oh my God, he admitted it. And that's recording. Immediately called his attorneys. And the following day, he's seen with a massive drool pile, stain on his shirt. And he's eating paper. And he miraculously became crazy the very next day. Isn't that amazing? God, what an unlucky guy Richard Allen is. The Indiana Supreme Court has held that a serious breach of duty occurs when the prosecution willfully or intentionally, when unjustified by a public policy, obstructs the access of the defense to material evidence in its possession. It is likewise a serious breach when, through lack of vigilance, the negligence, destruction, or withholding of material evidence by law enforcement officers or the prosecutor occurs. In such instances, does anybody, let me just ask this honestly, the 85-page Odin thing, does anybody consider that withholding information from the defense? When just on the mere mentioning in a deposition that they were going down the Odin route, he goes, oh, here you go. Yeah, it isn't. Nobody withheld anything from you guys. and as a matter of fact, there's no intentional withholding of anything here. The Indiana Supreme Court has also held that the negligent or intentional destruction of evidence by the police can provide grounds for reversal or dismissal. Right, but how are you going to prove it was intentional? Okay, so where are you going to be able to prove that? That they intentionally destroyed it maliciously. Now, if they got rid of it back then because it was like, yeah, Odinism has nothing to do with it, and they're moving on to something else, is that really nefarious, or is it just kind of like, okay, I mean, you know, I don't know. I don't know how it works. I'm sure you're supposed to keep every damn thing that you ever come up with in an investigation and keep it stored somewhere. The Indiana Supreme Court has also held that the negligent or intentional destruction of evidence by the police can provide grounds for reversal or dismissal on due process and due course of law grounds. Prior to any request for discovery by the defendant, the negligent destruction or withholding of material evidence by the police or the prosecution may present grounds for reversal. The Indiana Supreme Court has further held that when the prosecution determines evidence to be non-material and further decides not to advise defense counsel, the Indiana Supreme Court has further held that when the prosecution determines evidence to be non-material, like the 85-page Odin document, and further decides not to advise defense counsel of such evidence prior to its destruction. Well, they gave it to you, but you're talking about now you're talking about the interviews. A heavy burden rests upon the prosecution to demonstrate that the destruction of such evidence did not prejudice the defendant. Okay, so I wonder how that's going to play out with the judge. Is she going to say, well, I mean, that's where they would come forward with some of their information regarding the case. Okay, so that's when McClellan would have to come forward and say, yes, and this is I'm just making this up right here. And so it didn't prejudice him because this is the information we are going to present. That inside the house, we found a journal where Richard Allen described exactly what he did on that day of the crime. We have a bullet at the crime scene. His daughter and fiance turned him in. We also have, and they go through this whole list of things, which is overwhelming evidence that it's not Odinism. Therefore, it doesn't prejudice him because the jury would just be, yeah, that's hogwash. Rita. Yeah. That's what Fig Solve says. Rhetorical question. Why did the Odinist cult leave ritualistic items behind to take credit for murders, then have Richard Allen admit to it? Right, and then all of a sudden the credit's being given to a somebody that's like not an Odinist. Wouldn't they want, they're going to leave these branches and the F on the tree, and they want it to be Odinism. But what they're going to say is that the prosecution and the state has Odinists inside and are covering up, so even though they wanted to give credit for it, they knew that it might lead to the arrests of them, so they quickly got rid of all the information to cover for them, and then later, years later, found a lackey named Richard Allen working at a CVS pharmacy and said, whoa, and then it just turns out miraculously that he was there that day. I mean, how did they know that? Man, that's amazing. How did they know all those years ago that there was going to be a guy named Richard Allen that was at the bridge that day? Isn't that amazing? Those guys, I tell you, he admits to being there, and then later they were able to, oh yes, they pin it on Richard Allen, and it just turns out that's where he was. Can you tell me everything you know about Neptune, Gray? No, I can't. Neptune is I think Neptune is a massive planet that does have a ring around it, much like Saturn. And let's see. It has little green spacemen living on the ring itself. Little green. Yeah. The Simpsons would have predicted it. The appropriate test to apply when deciding whether a defendant's due process rights have been violated by the state's failure to preserve evidence depends on whether the evidence in question was potentially useful evidence or material exculpatory evidence. But you don't have any way of knowing that it's exculpatory. You're implying that it might be because you found one discrepancy and you think you would find a whole bunch more, where Brad Holder said he'd never met Abby, but he said, I didn't really even know her, I might have met her once. Okay, so that for you is exculpatory because, man, if we could just see the rest of that, we know for certain there'd be exculpatory. And yes, attorneys are really good at finding that kind of stuff. You could say, I want to have a Coke at McDonald's. And they'd say, did you hear that, everybody? He wants to do drugs at McDonald's. we can't tell if he was really talking about the drug coke or a coke. So we're going to go with that it's that cocaine at McDonald's, all right? So now if we take that and we extrapolate that out and move it down tenfold, we'll be able to see that's what they do here, okay? Just keep in mind that these two attorneys are the most unethical, embarrassing people that you're ever going to meet in this field. They make Jose Baez look like Matlock. I mean, are you kidding me? Oh, Jesus. They do. I hope they have that hearing. I want them to have that hearing. Don't you guys? Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking, man, that was a pretty good one. I mean, Matlock's probably like, what a generic attorney that guy was. Yeah. The Indiana Supreme Court has further held that when the prosecution determines evidence to be non-material and further decides not to advise defense counsel of such evidence prior to its destruction, a heavy burden, I'm just going to read this again, rests upon the prosecution to demonstrate that the destruction of such evidence did not prejudice the defendant. The appropriate test to apply when deciding whether the defendant's due process have been violated by the state's failure to preserve evidence, and they're going to talk about the test, depends on whether the evidence in question was potentially useful evidence. So I guess potentially useful would mean that, you know, there was the possibility that it had exculpatory information. Potentially useful evidence or material exculpatory evidence. The burden is on the state to demonstrate that the evidence was not material and its destruction did not prejudice the defendant. Potentially useful evidence is defined as evidentiary material of which no more can be said than that it could have been subjected to tests, the results of which might have exonerated the defendant. I mean, yeah, okay, so that is sort of a valid, you know, point there. If that's what really is. I guess it's the cell phone data too, right? You didn't get the cell phone data at the time. The state's failure to preserve potentially useful evidence constitutes a due process violation when the defendant can show bad faith. The Seventh Circuit has held that bad faith may be inferred when a party disposes of evidence in violation of its own policies. Violation of a record retention regulation creates a presumption that the missing records contained evidence adverse to the violator. The bad faith presumption arises when the failure to retain records or other evidence actually violates the terms of the applicable policy. However, the Indiana Court of Appeals has noted that in some instances the destruction or failure to preserve evidence may be so prejudicial to the defendant as to warrant reversal even in the absence of bad faith by the officers. Material exculpatory evidence, on the other hand, is defined as evidence that possesses an exculpatory value that was apparent before the evidence was destroyed and is of such nature that the defendant would be unable to obtain comparable evidence by other reasonably available means. The state's good or bad faith in failing to preserve material exculpatory evidence is irrelevant. The Indiana Supreme Court has held that the defendant must establish materiality as a condition precedent to claiming a denial of due process where evidence is negligently lost or withheld by the government, except where the materiality is self-evident or showing of materiality is prevented by the destruction of the evidence. Material exculpatory evidence, on the other hand, is defined as evidence that possesses an exculpatory value that was apparent before the evidence was destroyed. Well, how would they know that, though? I mean, so the summary showed that, obviously didn't believe Rat Holder. It was part of the murders. And of such a nature that the defendant would be able to obtain comparable evidence by other reasonably available means. The state's good or bad faith is failing to preserve material exculpatory evidence is irrelevant. The state's good or bad faith in failing to preserve material exculpatory evidence is irrelevant. So whether it's good or bad, it's irrelevant. The Indiana Supreme Court has held that the defendant must establish materiality as a condition precedent to claiming a denial of due process where evidence is negligently lost or withheld by the government, except where the materiality is self-evident or a showing of materiality is prevented by the destruction of the evidence. Kind of got too much verbiage at the end there. It was sort of making sense up there, though. An item is material if it appears that it might benefit the preparation of the defendant's case, or if it might reasonably affect the outcome of the trial. Let's see. In the matter given the nature of the evidence, that law enforcement either failed to preserve or actually destroyed the materiality was and is self-evident. Furthermore, as in Lee, the failure to preserve or destruction prevents the defense from establishing the exculpatory nature of the evidence and its materiality. As such, Allen is not required to demonstrate the materiality of the evidence. To be sure, the unavailable evidence had exculpatory value, which was apparent at the time it should have been preserved and prior to its destruction. Additionally, Allen is unable to obtain comparable evidence by other reasonably available means. Well, you could just interview him again, right? But he changed the story now. If spoliation by a party to be lawsuit is proved, rules of evidence permit the jury to infer that the missing evidence was unavailable to that party. Spoliation of evidence is the intentional destruction, mutilation, alteration, or concealment of evidence. If spoliation by a party to a lawsuit is provided, rules of evidence permit the jury to infer that the missing evidence was unfavorable to the party. Even if this court requires a showing of bad faith, it is apparent. Bad faith is defined as being not simply bad judgment or negligence, but rather implies the conscious doing of wrong because of dishonest purpose or moral obliquity. Hey, thanks, Richard Gartner. Obliquity is defined as deviation from moral rectitude or sound thinking. The United States Supreme Court has recognized that the police... See, I think what's going on here is that, Rosie and Baldwin feel like they've just, they stepped it up a notch because the Supreme Court ruled in their favor. So now they're jumping in there and trying to throw everything at the wall now because they've already got, look how powerful we are. The Supreme Court ruled in our favor. They put us back on the case. Now we're going to jump in here with... All right.
Thanks, Gray.
United States Supreme Court has recognized that the police have a constitutional duty to preserve such evidence. In Trombetta, the Supreme Court observed that whatever duty the Constitution imposes on the states to preserve evidence, that duty must be limited to evidence that might be expected to play a significant role in the suspect's defense. California versus Trombetta 467. The court recognized that same duty in Arizona versus Youngblood, confirming that the Constitution imposes at least a limited obligation on the police to preserve evidence that could form the basis for exonerating the defendant. It is beyond debatable that the evidence at issue here would play a significant role in Mr. Allen's defense. But maybe you were seeking... See, it almost feels to me like they were looking for something in this case that would have these issues. Like they were fishing for it. Like if everything was available for this Odin theory, they probably would have found some other thing and then went, well, where's the information on that? Because that's what we were going to go for. That's what it feels like, right? Well, this whole, since the arrest is made, well, not even just then, it's as soon as the Odin document was put out, that's when everything went to hell in this case. And also, the whole Keegan Kline, the Anthony Schatz's profile, that was an avenue they were looking down, and I still think that there's got to be a connection there somewhere. Whatever duty the Constitution imposes on the state to preserve evidence, that duty must be limited to evidence that might be expected to play a significant role. It is beyond debatable that the evidence at issue here would play a significant role in Mr. Allen's defense and would form a basis for exonerating him. Additionally, the suppression, not exonerating, he might have been found not guilty because there's really dumb people out there. The suppression, additionally, the suppression by the prosecution of evidence favorably to an accused upon request violates due process where the evidence is material either to guilt or to punishment. To prevail on a Brady claim, a defendant must establish 1, that the prosecution suppressed evidence, 2, that the evidence was favorable to the defense, and 3, that the evidence was material to any issue at trial. So how can you prove that the information that Holder or Westfall said was helpful to you? It is clear that the federal Constitution is not the sole guarantor of the right to due process and other rights. Chief Justice Shepard made this abundantly clear in his law review article, Second Win for the Indiana Bill of Rights. Civil liberties protected only by U.S. Supreme Court or only as secure as the Warren Court or the Rehnquist Court wishes to make them. The protection of Americans against tyranny requires that state Supreme Courts and state constitutions be strong centers of authority on the rights of the people. I am determined that the Indiana Constitution and the Indiana Supreme Court be strong protectors of these rights. The Chief Justice also stated that Indiana was an early and noteworthy participant in using its Bill of Rights to defend personal liberty. After citing the numerous early decisions, noted that there that these were but a few in a fine line of cases in which the Indiana Supreme Court held that the Indiana Bill of Rights afforded Hoosiers rights which the federal Constitution did not. Chief Justice Shepard also made note of the fact that many provisions of the Indiana Bill of Rights have no counterpart in the United States Constitution, and observed that Article 1, Section 12 was one of those provisions. This provision relating to due process is at issue in the state case. Now they're going to talk about the Indiana Bill of Rights and how that further should help Richard Allen here. The Due Process Clause of the United States Constitution is found in Section 1 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. The section states in relevant part that states shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process. The right to due process conferred under the Constitution of the State of Indiana is found in Article 1, Section 12, and contains significant language not found in the Constitution of the United States. So the Indiana, let's see, I guess it was called the due process right. It says, all courts shall be open, and every person for injury done to him in his person, property, or reputation shall have remedy by due course of law. Justice shall be administered freely and without purchase, completely and without denial, speedily and without delay. Emphasis added. While the defense is unaware of any Indiana case law specifically interpreting the emphasized portion of the constitutional provision, the provision itself was traced back to the Magna Carta in State XREL Board of County Commissioner. The Larimore Court also acknowledged that although the provision was derived from the Magna Carta, it may be a broader guarantee of free, unpurchased, and impartial justice. 3 more contemporary decisions dealing with the issue of destruction of evidence are of particular import. First, it is clear from Chief Justice Shepard concurrence in House versus the State, that the issue of whether a lack of good faith on the part of the state was required for a defendant to obtain remedy for the destruction of potentially exculpatory evidence under the Indiana Constitution had not been decided adversely to the defendant even after Youngblood. The House decision actually dealt with the discovery of potentially exculpatory evidence and the need to materiality of that evidence. Both Chief Justice Shepard and Justice DeBruler, however, discussed the related issue of destruction or loss of such evidence. In his concurrence and dissent, Justice DeBruler stated that, I'm just reading this stuff because it's here, I mean, it's interesting, but it's also kind of dry. That's why we went from 430 people down to 480 or 380. People go, yeah, okay. And that's why the super chats dried up like a stream in the middle of the Mojave Desert. Because this is like, whew. You do? What are they, Cindy? While I agree with the result reached by the majority opinion on this discovery issue, I point out that when the accused shows that material evidence was in the hands of the prosecution and lost, the question of whether the accused must then go ahead and show prejudice is open in Indiana. In my judgment, when the item is not available for scrutiny by the trial court, but is known to have been material, the risk of loss should be borne by the prosecution, not the defendant. The police and prosecutors are After all, highly trained specialists in the gathering and retention of evidence, and should be expected to carefully retain all material evidence in usable form. Thank you, the Broken Scout. Almost said Broken Cup of Joe. Chief Justice Shepard, in his concurrence, stated that I agree with Justice DeBruler that this case does not decide what standard Indiana should use for cases in which the prosecution has disposed of arguably material evidence which might exculpate a defendant. The instant case certainly appears to be the type envisioned by these comments. 2 Indiana decisions have been found in which the issue of due process and the destruction of evidence was raised under both the federal and Indiana Constitution. Hale versus State 230, although both of these decisions were determined adversely to the defendants based on the facts of the cases. Yeah, but see, isn't that what could happen in this one? You already have the facts. The facts of the case behind the scenes might make all of this stuff just seem irrelevant to the judge, and the judge and the prosecution knows that the whole Odin theory is merely a tactic that, while they know for certain that his attorneys know that Richard Allen did this, okay, based on the evidence. So they're using this crazy Odinist thing just to get him off, which I guess that's what they're supposed to be doing. But at the same time, it just, have been found in which the issues of due process. Although both of these decisions were determined adversely to the defendant's case based on the facts of the cases, both also stated that negligent or intentional destruction of material evidence by the police or the prosecution may present grounds for reversal. Right. But what if the evidence is overwhelming and sort of shows that the information is irrelevant? Each case, the defense alleged a violation of due process under both the federal and state constitutions. While both decisions were rendered prior to the United States Supreme Court decision, in Youngblood, supra, the decision of House rendered after Youngblood decision makes it clear that the principle announced in Hale and Douglas may still be valid under the Indiana Constitution. Additionally, Lee supra was decided after Youngblood. Yeah, I mean, I don't have everything sitting in front of me going okay, now this was after Youngblood and this is... Hey, thank you, Wild Mountain Time. What happened to Cindy Lynn? She said, I have so many questions. If the language of Article 1, Section 12 of the Indiana Constitution, justice shall be administered freely and without purchase, completely and without denial, speedily and without delay, is to have any meaning at all, it certainly seems to support a more stringent enforcement of due process rights than required under the federal Constitution. Given the facts of the instant case, the penalty involved, and the long history of concern about preservation of evidence in Indiana case law, as well as evidence of attempts of law enforcement in the state of Indiana attempting to conceal other material and exculpatory evidence, Mr. Allen should not be deprived of remedy for the egregious loss of evidence. Yeah, but it's only egregious because it's almost like you went fishing for something.
Chewbacca?
It's crazy.
I'll do Chewbacca if you want me to.
Thank you, Gray, for creating this wonderful community of freaks. I am very grateful.
Well, it's awesome. Well, thank you. The only remedy that this is the conclusion, the only remedy that serves the interests of justice and guarantees Mr. Allen's Constitution rights is dismissal of all charges. Oh, boy. Anyways, does anybody think that that's going to go anywhere? I don't have any. I mean, the only questions I have are things like, back then when you recorded it, I mean, I'd like to know if they solved they realized that Odinism had nothing to do with it. Right? So they just were, a little too cavalier with the DVR or whatever the hell it was. I mean, I don't really know. Nobody knows. But it doesn't fit the conspiracy theory. They're going to come up with a conspiracy theory, but none of them make sense, though. Because it was recorded over in September of 2017, and then Richard Allen was arrested in 2022. So when was when did they start going? I mean, right all the way back then, they were already covering up for the Odinists, and they just had to wait all those years to pin it on somebody else. It's not gonna work. Yeah. There's no chance. Well, I don't know. That's the name of a case, this account. One of them is a motion to... so the first one was a motion to dismiss all the charges because they destroyed exculpatory evidence. Except we don't know if it was exculpatory or not, but then the argument in the memo was talking about it doesn't matter if it's still, so they put this out and then had a memorandum backing up this. So it's kind of like the Franks hearing and then the memorandum supporting that. So in this one, they put a motion forward and had a memorandum backing it up with case law. Oh no, we're over it. We're made it past the goal. That's why I donated 5 memberships. $1 million. Look at the broken scout, man. $1 million. Jeez. What do you mean? What do you mean, Cindy? Because these are documents that aren't part of the gag order. There's just specific documents that they don't make it out there. Yeah, I think they should have. I think too. I think she needs to have the hearing and put out all the information, and then she's the one that's going to have to rule on this, right? And then it's going to in the Carroll Circuit Court. So is this higher? Was this given to a higher level than Judge Gould here? I don't think so. So Judge Gould's the one that's gonna have to rule on this, right? And if that doesn't work, what are they gonna do? Send it to the Indiana State Supreme Court again? Like I say, they are going to do the hearing on the 12th for contempt. Yeah, there's going to be... Well, here's what's going to happen. See, what the defense is trying to do is they're trying to get this all dropped. They don't want to go to trial. Because once they get to trial, the real information that the prosecution has is going to be overwhelming, and then any appeal will look stupid because they'll just go, well, what about this? Yeah, that's great. You didn't have the Odin documents. What does that got to do with this? So they want to get to trial. They don't want to go to trial. They want it out before trial, because once it gets there, all this Odin shit is going to look idiotic. All right? It's going to look stupid. Thank you, Osiris. Don't you see what I'm saying? They're trying to throw everything against the wall, see if it sticks, prior to the trial. And then when the trial happens and they go down the Odin route and all this stuff, when the prosecution shows what they have, it's just going to be, all the appeals will look stupid. Like, what if it was something like this? Wow, look at this. We have a videotape of Richard Allen committing the murders. He uploaded it onto the internet. And then he claims, but we wanted to pin it on an Odinist. Okay, and the interview that you did with one of the Odinists is lost, and but Richard, we have a video of you doing it. What does the Odinists have to do with anything? But it doesn't matter. You see, my defense. Shut the hell up. Okay. Right. Yeah. Well, no problem. Well, thank you to hey Cindy, if you're out there, or I guess I won't say your last name, but Goldie. Send me your link to your channel. I don't know. I don't know if you're blocked or not. So send me a link in that same email. Like an email to me. If I had blocked you on YouTube. I don't know. So Amber, if you're out there, can you send me your URL? I'm kind of wondering if we have like an X mod that's or a moderator currently, not an X mod, but that we don't see very often, that's removing people out there. The only reason I can think this may have happened is because my YouTube handle used to be whole name. Yeah, I don't know. Send me your channel URL though, Amber. Not Amber Maiden, but the other one. I mean, how do I get two in like 2 seconds talking about? Yeah. Weird. Hey, by the way, if you're out there and you feel like your comments, you can't see them or anything like that, send me an email with your URL and I'll check to see if you're blocked or not. Now, if you're one of the actual trolls, don't bother. Okay. Weird. So what do you think? Does anybody out here think that there's even a chance in hell that the judge is going to somehow let Richard Allen off the hook? Forget it. Nope, you're right there, Dan. You're right there. Okay, well anyways, I got to sort of start getting ready for my travels. But might do like a live stream in the morning hours tomorrow. Might be kind of fun, you know. What, Cindy? What? What do you mean? What do they want from those documents? We went over the whole thing, Zozo. What do you mean gray with a question mark? I don't understand. Yeah, obviously we can see you, Cindy. You're right there. What they're looking for in the document is they are trying to say that the prosecution intentionally withheld information and intentionally destroyed interviews that were exculpatory information from the Odinists and would have exonerated their client, but for the fact that we can't see it, or they're saying, we can't see it, I don't know. It's garbage to me. They had, the arguments they put in there, there's laws and whatnot, and, the judge is going to have to go through and check them out. But you have to prove that they were, it was intentional negligence. I thought the part that was ridiculous was the 85-page Odin document. Listen to this again, everybody. Just listen to this. The 85-page Odin document that was turned in by Click, this guy named Click or whatever. He turns it in. He sends it in with a certified letter, and in May, McClellan, the prosecutor, got it. And he's looking at it going, okay, yeah. He's not doing anything with it because it has nothing to do with Richard Allen. It's just sitting there because it's yeah, big deal. Yeah, we believe it's Richard Allen, not your Odinists. Okay, talking to the detective. And then 4 or 5 months later, in a deposition, the defense let it known that they were going to seek information on this Odin theory. And then right after that, McClellan goes, oh, well, here's that 85-page document that somebody else... And they go, ooh, he was withholding it from us. It wasn't until we asked for... What the hell are you talking about? It was ludicrous. They'd moved on to Richard Allen. It was probably the last thing you were going to get on Discovery. It was just nonsensical garbage. All right? And then you're claiming that he intentionally withheld... Yeah, give me a break. Yeah.
Tough news about
I'm just trying to... Oops. How do you do...
Tough news about Shay on the...
Oh, there you go. I'm trying to check to see if one of these... Yeah, I guess you were hidden. Alright. You should be unhidden now, Amber, the other Amber. So, see if you can type something. See what happens. Wait, no, it's still there. Huh. Hold on, let me see. Oh, crap, man, that's not good. I'm gonna have to try it a different way here. Okay. I think that's it. Let me try this one more time. Okay, yeah, now it should be good. Amber D, right? Yeah, so try it now. I think it's good. Type something in, Amber D. Let's see if we can see it. I don't see anything yet, but you're unblocked now. Do you think any of the jury could see it as... Yeah, of course, Zoza. Jeez, why are you even asking that question? Haven't you seen all the crazy people on YouTube who believe all kinds of crazy shit? Haven't you seen those? Why would you even need to ask the question? Yeah. Like the clown... I saw him say, because it's me, he imitates me sometimes. He wears the glasses and everything. And he doesn't blink because he edits out the blinks. Think how stupid that is, you guys. Like, somebody sits around and edits out blinks for like an hour. Oh, there's another blink. Ooh. Okay, so, yeah, they were saying how they're going to get into the Delphi case. That's because, you know, they know where I stand, and the other side is filled with conspiracy nut job shit you can talk about all day long, and it's so awesome. And that's where the community guidelines are being interfered with by a lot of these YouTubers, because it says the conspiracy theories blaming it on innocent people is against their guidelines, and yet they get away with it every single day. Isn't that crazy? It's amazing. You know, the conspiracy side is the key. Oh, there you are. Yeah. Yeah, I remember you in here all the time. I don't know what happened. Must have accidentally got... accidentally hidden or something. Don't know why. That's weird. You should check to see if the super chat's working, though, Amber. Let's see. I'm just kidding, though. You weren't, Gray. You weren't kidding, you bastard. All right. Well, that's going to do it, you guys. I got to get moving. I got to start getting my crap together. I got to get up at like 6 in the morning. All right, but anyways, thank you all very much for being here tonight. I want to thank, let's thank Bridget Price, Persis57, welcome, new member, and then Persis57, super chat, and then Dan Coyle, Allie Cake, Georgina Stoliker, Amber Maiden, Your Gypsy, Dan Coyle again, Danielle, Mrs. Ryan, Mama 457 Rose, Caligal 3's been here for 17 months. Had to be longer than that. Sarah A. Dan Coyle again. Robin, then Caligal 3 with a cat eye. Then Freddie A.P. Wise Child. Dan Coyle again. Dan Coyle's like he's just a boxer. He's like... Bogey Green Street. Elaine, Mama 457 Rose, Kit, who called in, and she said she'll paint for other domestic violence victims, and then Cape Breton Drone Pilot, now there's people out there that believe in crap like that. That's why they put that Odin document out, Zozo, so that people would start buying into it, knowing that it would spread around like wildfire with the wackos. Hey, thanks, Robin, and then Paulette Leonard, Cape Breton Drone Pilot, and then Dan Coyle with a cat eye donation. Cindy Lynn, then Quietly Frozen with a cat eye, and then Dan Coyle with a double cat eye. So we had one of those sort of fortunate nights again, but I appreciate it. Then Quietly Frozen, and then I gifted 5 memberships. Walker Homestead has been 33 months. Awesome. Then Dan Coyle again, and Richard Gartner, The Broken Scout, Wild Mountain Time, Osiris Stewart, and Dan Coyle again. Right at the end. Anyways, thanks everybody for the support tonight. Helps out quite a bit. And yeah, I'm putting out, like, there's this Jodi Arias sort of montage of, it's like a 20-something minute, but I comment myself on it. So that video will be coming out tomorrow. So when you see it, make sure to go out and share it and hit that like button right away and see if we can get that sucker into the algorithm. I know her case isn't big right now, but I think the information in the video is pretty good. Yep, happened after an ad. What happened after an ad? Let's celebrate their first Super Unalive by Amber D. Well, thank you. I was kidding, by the way, but anyways. Now, some people can't put words for some reason. I've been like that on other channels. All right. Anyways, thanks everybody. Appreciate it. And also, I did get I think it was a PayPal from Goldie Khan. So if you're out there, Goldie Khan, she also said that she thinks she's blocked. So send me an email if you think that's the case. All right. And thank you guys. All right, we'll see you maybe tomorrow while I'm driving. All right, who knows? Okay, but as I always say, until next time, everybody. Well, before I say that, look it. Richard Allen's going down. The prosecution has what they need. He's going down. Okay? There's no Odinists here. They're not involved. They have absolutely nothing to do with it. This is all smoke and mirrors, last-ditch efforts by the defense to try to throw whatever they can at the wall to make it stick. Yes, it is unfortunate that they didn't record some of the, or the recordings are gone from a long time ago. It wasn't something that happened presently where the information was removed. This was a long time ago. It was written over on a DVR, okay? Yes, that does kind of suck, but at the time, it was deemed unimportant because they said it's not an Odinist. And then, luck would have it that 2 wackadoodle attorneys would come in of the most unethical variety that you could ever imagine and went down the Odinist route. And even McClellan, who had an 85-page Odin document sent to him by one of the investigators, was like, whoa, okay, well, shit, you probably want these Odin documents then. And then you have the situation with the historian guy about Odinism at the college. That's a little dicey because probably once they went, oh God, remember that one quack professor? Remember that guy? He was talking about how he really thought it was the runes and everything. Oh God, oh crap, we have to give them that. Now they're going to be able to make this crazy case behind the scenes, and they're probably going to call this professor in, etc. Oh man. And then they leak the Odin document so that the public can go through it, and they know of all the crazy, especially idiots like Slow Joe and the rest of them, who literally believe this stuff. And they're all going to look like absolute idiots when this trial starts, okay? All right, well, that's it, everybody. Thank you very much for being here tonight. We'll see you guys soon. And as I always say, until next time, be safe out there. and a 1 and a 2 and a 3.
And a 4 and a 5 and a 6 and a 7 and an 8 and a 9.
I only said
And
1
in
and a
this
2 and a
whole
3.
time, I have not
But I want to say 7 and 8 and a 9 and a 10.
Oh my god.
Crime dissector, flag rejector. I'm a certified human lie
detector. I'm
gonna get ya on a stretcher if you try and play me like an old projector. Crime sector is my nectar. Professor Gregor's gonna give another lecture. Crime collector, freak connector, and I'm always gonna be a
Protector, fool deflector, interceptor. Never needle than a spectre with a vector.
on his pector. With all respect, ya. Just remember I've a temple fucking checked ya. I have no agenda. I'm no
I'm a
pretender.
tender, and I'll serve it to you straight without a blender.
And
Like
if I
Quietly
end
Frozen
up,
said.
I'm gonna send ya
On a mission to reveal the true offender.
Yeah, so
Quietly Frozen.
The coolest name.
In YouTube history.
Hey, you remember that? Yeah, wow.
I sure do, Gray, I sure do.
All right, everybody. Thank you all very much. Thanks for helping support the channel too as well. That was very cool. And we will see you guys soon.
Good night, everybody. Jay.
Yeah, good night to you too, Mary Lou.
Hey, thanks, Gray.
Wait, how come you sound so happy and chipper when just before that you sounded really sad with the G?
I don't know, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I thought it was too. Just using some of my detective abilities.